Hello, and today we are going to be doing our fifth grade social studies unit, and we're going to work on our civil rights movement. We've already covered a lot of the information we had to teach earlier this week, where you all have investigated your Georgia Studies Weekly on the civil rights. I'm going to open it here so that way we can see what's going on. Many of these things, as I have listed here, is that we have covered everything about President Truman, his contributions to the civil rights movement. We have Brown versus the Board of Education, where we have talked about a man who wanted his daughter to go to a school, and you have learned about the details there, which gave us a different education system today. We also talked about the Little Rock Nine, which is also different about how the education system is, that you'll see right here. Rosa Parks, the whole story that was involved here and what Rosa Parks did to change our rights, our civil rights, and Martin Luther King. You've also read that Martin Luther King was there for Rosa Parks as support and advocate for the rights. And that's kind of like where his inspiration is, because on the back side, y'all got a little bit more information about what Dr. Martin Luther King did, especially with his most famous speech, the I've Got a Dream speech. Now, today, I know that we have all kind of covered this and done some work on these, but today we're going to go into our groups. We have 4 groups. And in each group, we're going to work on discussion questions. These questions you'll work on together. They're going to be more of a critical thinking, ways to think outside of here of what it might be like to have been a civil rights leader, maybe then and now. Each station has different handouts. Some of them you have options at every group. You can see what the civil rights are from then to now. What's the same, what's different. We also have some handouts that will cover, each group. One group may have one handout. Another group will have some handouts about comparing and seeing what they are. Knowing there's some primary resources with Rosa Parks. You're able to see her arrest documents. You can see a diagram of the bus where there were so many seats that were available for the white riders, and then where she was as to why she stood up to where she was. It kind of gives you a clear picture of what's going on. So you've got primary resource documents you can check out, and all of our key events and key people in this section of our civil rights movement. As you go through these stations, I will be kind of walking around monitoring, seeing how your learning progress is going. If you don't have any further questions, y'all may go ahead and go to your groups. All right, and then it is at this time that I wanted to talk, because the video that I watched was about a teacher in a 5th grade class, and she had she just had a microphone to listen to the discussions they had, and she would come in and listen to her groups and kind of point their directions in what they needed to know what the differences were, as far as they were talking about the Ellis Island, and I guess what it took for people to get there, why these people were here, was it fair, was it not fair, which I felt was similar to this, plus this lesson I taught this week about what's considered fair and not fair, segregating versus desegregating, or grouping people together for certain things. So if I were to teach that lesson, I actually would plan to have groups that were set by not the lexile. I probably would have heterogeneous grouping, because when I did work with this specific topic, I did have some students that were grouped together that were at the same level, And it's difficult as a teacher to go around and make sure that everybody was working on their parts when they needed me more. So that could have been a group for like a teacher table. But if I were to do this in a history class, I could bring up what we're doing, show what they're working with, and discuss what the different questions would be for their critical thinking. For this specific lesson, I noticed on here that there are some questions that I could have that just go along with their assignment. And they had 4 questions that was like, the Little Rock Nine were some of the first students to attend integrated schools. Why was this so important in our history? What are some of the accomplishments of Martin Luther King Jr. that have left a legacy for our country? Why did the Jim Crow laws come into existence? And how did Brown versus the Topeka Board of Education case change the educational system in the United States? So many of these questions I would probably have at the groups and just make sure that the question fit with the students at the group. It being heterogeneous, it would be a lot easier to just have these 4 topics at each area, and then the students could rotate, so that way they all get exposure to these critical thinking and reviewing and going back into context. So that's what I have. Thanks.